Hey everybody, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Alicia Elizabeth and I'm so excited that you've decided to join me for another Wealthy Wednesday. I don't know about you, but I woke up feeling pretty wealthy today, if I do say so myself. If this is your first time here at this YouTube page, I want to encourage you to subscribe, like, and share this video. If and only if you like what you've heard after listening all the way through. If you are a returning wealthy person, hello. Let's get right into today's topic. Today we're going to talk about budgeting. The B word that a lot of people do not like for many reasons. Before we jump into that, I'm jumping ahead of myself. We are using The Complete Guide to Money by Dave Ramsey. I am not solely using him as a resource, but this is a blueprint to helping me figure out how to navigate money. Again, you can get this book at the library. You can get this book at Have Books. You can order this book on Amazon. I think Dave does a good job of aggressively giving strategy to attack debt and to get your behavior under control with money. But I do not think that this is the end all be all, the only way to go. Okay, so we are going to talk about budgeting today. And I have a lot of stuff around me, so forgive me if I'm grabbing. I would have recorded this in my office, but similar to last week, I still have things up on my dry erase board that's kind of personal, and I just don't feel like erasing it, so I brought you all in my living room. So what is a budget? It is a financial plan. It's a plan for your money. It's telling your money what to do and where to go so that you don't have to wonder where it went. And most importantly, it tracks your income and expenses. One of the reasons a lot of people who dread doing budgets is because it will give them insight into things that they don't want to face, such as their behaviors and or the fact that they may be living outside of their means. And so if you're someone that's avoided doing a budget for either of those reasons, or even whatever your reason may be, I want to encourage you today to just sit down and write out what you bring in. I have been living on my own for about maybe 8 years now, maybe a little longer. And every time I've decided to get another job, it came by way of me doing a budget. And usually it was because I felt like I wasn't bringing in enough. I might have been making ends meet, or I could have been, living beneath my lifestyle, meaning I was bringing in less than what I could afford, and it was only by the grace of God that I was maintaining. But a budget showed me that. A budget showed me how I had no insight as to where my extra money was going. When I first moved out, the most important thing was to make sure I paid my rent, right? That's usually the mindset we have. Make sure you pay your rent, make sure you pay your car note. We don't want anything to be taken away from us that we can control. But then there's this extra money that sometimes we don't know where it's gone, where it's going. And so when we get to time to pay bills or the end of the month, we're like making peanut butter and jelly sandwiches because that's all we have, when we could have avoided that to begin with. Okay, so why do we need one? It tells you what's going on with your habits, your income, and where your money's going. And how do we make a budget? So for some people, this video is going to be like, I already know how to make a budget, I don't need to watch it, and that's fine. But I never want to assume that in all of this money talk, people know how to make budgets and or understand the value of it. The budget should have been one of the first videos I made, but I wanted to get my feet wet and just kind of put the idea out there and invite you all into my space. But I will be backtracking when I deem it necessary, because I don't want to leave anyone behind. And so the way you make a budget is you want to address your net income. Okay, so again, I have a bunch of things, and so I brought the board out. And I did. I have my calculator here. I want to just also let you know that my goal is to always challenge our mindset around the things we're working on. So I call this I get to create a budget, okay? People dread budgets, but I want you to see it as an opportunity to be a great steward, okay? You have been entrusted with whatever amount of income that you have, and so what a privilege that you can show God, your provider, that you are going to be a good steward of what you have, even if it's not enough in this season, right? So when you create your budget, I want you to take on the mindset that, wow, I get to create a budget. And while I may not like what I see, or I may not be prepared for what's going to come out of it, what an honor it is to have some sort of income that I get to allocate in different places to show that I'm able to steward what I've worked for or what I've been entrusted with. What a privilege to be responsible of my resources in that way. And so I get to create a budget, okay? So I'm gonna make up, sorry, my marker's on the ground. I'm gonna make up a quick, income situation. We're not gonna go through all of these, but I'm just gonna show you what I've done. I'm also gonna talk about what Dave recommends. If this works, I have gone in and screen recorded an app that Dave Ramsey has, called Every Dollar Budget. And essentially the goal is to take your monthly income and get it down to a zero amount. For me, I really like to look at my paychecks and get them down to a zero. But essentially you want to pay for things. You want to look at your money as how much do I bring in per month? So if you have a varying income, there's a different format for you because, someone else who has a consistent bi-weekly paycheck, they know what they're bringing in for the month already when you're on salary or if you work a set number of hours. Someone who is commission-based may experience months where they bring in a lot more, and then the following months they're not bringing in as much, and so their budgeting setup looks a little different. If this is something that you would be interested in seeing, please comment below and I will happily do that. But for the most part, I'm creating a budget based on people who have an idea of what they're bringing in every month. If you are someone who is hourly, then you want to strive to have a consistent amount of hours if possible, so that you can also have a ballpark. If your hours fluctuate between 32 and 40 hours, then I would recommend planning for a 32-hour per week budget, and anything extra, anytime you hit that 40 mark, that's where you can throw it into your savings, or you could, pay off some debt. That would just be my opinion. That's what I did when I was working hourly positions. I always planned for the minimum, the absolute minimum that I would work, and then everything else was extra. And so that's how I was able to determine if I needed to get a second job and things of that sort. If I wasn't bringing in a consistent amount, I needed to make sure, okay, no matter what this job and this job does, I'll always have this amount at least per month, okay? So again, this budget is based off someone who, they know what they're bringing in for the month, and this is just how you would want to go through it. So I just decided to do $2,400, and this is after taxes, okay? So that means this person is bringing in about $1,200, every 2 weeks. Their paycheck is $1,200 every 2 weeks. When I go through my list, and this is just an extensive list of things that you will find on a budget sheet, so I'm not going to fill all of these out, but I'm just going to show you what it would look like. First and foremost, definitely want to pay your tithes. I am not imposing this on you, but I want to say, if you've been watching this channel, I am a believer, and experience has taught me that I don't pay my tithes just to get a return from Christ, but I pay my tithes because none of this belongs to me. He is my provider, and so I'm going to make sure I give him the first of my income, which is 10% of every check that goes back into the church that is feeding me, housing me, meaning like where I go to have service and things of that sort. So I'm being a responsible steward by first giving that 10% to him. This is something that I encourage you to take up in your prayer life and talk to God about it. I'm not here to debate with you about what you do. You don't have to have this in your budget, even for people, even when you don't make enough, right? And I'm just, quick testimony. I'm telling you that when I was younger, I would work, at Starbucks. I've worked at hotels. I've worked, I'm trying to think of some of my little part-time jobs, and I've done budgets, and I'm like, God, how am I making ends meet? Because I'm looking at my check and I don't make enough. And I know personal experience that it's been because of him that every month bills were paid on time. I never missed a car note, never was late on a car note, never been late on my rent, never have been short on my rent. And I know my personal testimony, it is because I've always given him the 10% that he asked for off the top. I know that that is how provision works with him. I know that, the months that I might have been short might have been months that people have blessed me with money. Utility bills have come in a lot cheaper than they should be. Bills were paid ahead of time that I forgot. Like, whatever it is for this house, we pay our tithes. And so 10% automatically comes out. So that's $2,400 divided by 10 means that $240 goes towards my tithes, which brings my total amount to work with to $2,160. Okay, so boom. Something that I would like to be better about is paying myself after I pay my tithes. In my head, I would like to always put 10% in my savings for myself. But if we're going to be realistic, if you don't bring in enough money, that is a really large goal. So to put $240 to the church and then turn around and give myself $240 while I am worth that investment, it may not be within my budget, but we should have an amount that we are tossing aside to ourselves. And so if it helps, automatically have this amount taken out of your check into another account that you don't see. But I think we could start putting aside 10, 20, 50, depending on how much you bring in per month. Go ahead and tell yourself that you are worth the savings and try to put that in. So if I can't do 10%, in my head, a nice goal is to at least give myself 5% of my income. So, and I'm being honest, I haven't been consistent or have done this, but it is something that I want to implement. So for the sake of this budget, 240 divided by 2 is 120, which is 5% of my total amount. So remember that Dave Ramsey says we save for purchases, wealth, and savings, right? And so hypothetically, let's say I was saving for a new MacBook computer, which I do want. And let's say that is $5,000. I'm going to start thinking about how much, after I get to my $0 budget, whatever's left, how much do I want to put into that purchase account so that I can purchase that MacBook, right? So if I have 50 left after going through this list, maybe every paycheck, I'm putting 50 aside to purchase this large purchase. But for the sake of this, let's say I already have my emergency fund. If you don't have your emergency fund, then you would go ahead and try to throw money into that. But let's say I do. Let's say that we're not covering wealth right now. We're not covering purchase. We're just going to do savings, and I'm going to put $50. I'm sorry. Yeah, let's do $50 in my savings. Now, so we went from $2,400 minus $240 for tithes minus $50 for my savings, which means we are now at $2,110. Okay, now we got to get into the nitty gritty. So Dave Ramsey talks about the 4 walls that we all have to be mindful of because we need them. And this is food, clothing, transportation, and housing. He says in his book, and this is something I want to say to you too, you have to make the decision in your mind that no matter what comes up in your life, even your community's life, you will not compromise those 4 walls. I know this is really hard if you consider yourself a giver or someone that's extremely kind, things of the sorts. But with finances, obtaining wealth and saving and keeping it, we have to learn to say, like, my rent is not money that I can lend out. Because lending it to someone means that I am compromising my housing. So even if your rent is $2,000 and you have $2,005 in your bank account and someone says, I really could just borrow $200, you don't have $200. You have $5 to your name because that $2,000 has already been accounted for. So housing, hypothetically, let's say rent was $950. When it comes to utilities, I like to over guess if I don't have a consistent amount. We should, at some point you want to know, okay, this is how much I'm typically using. But for instance, me personally, I like to overestimate, and then, when my bill comes in, even if it's $5 to $10 less than what I planned, that's $5 to $10 that I technically have scheduled for, so I'm not in the hole, okay? So let's say housing is $950. Let's say your electricity bill is $80. Let's say water's in your rent. Let's say gas was $60. For this one, I would over guess, like I would plan for $80, but let's say it's typically $60. Let's say your phone bill is $80. And again, not telling you what to do, but when it comes to paying off debt, I don't think cable is necessary. But let's say cable in this situation is Netflix, and let's just put $7 here, okay? So we have $2,110 to work with. Rent is $950. Electricity was $80. The gas bill was $60. the phone bill was $80, and the cable was $7. We are now down to $933 to tell where to go. So we're doing pretty good. Now for food, groceries. Some people plan for $100 a week, right? So this is where, the 4 walls, transportation is down here. So let me first keep going. So food, let's say you do plan for $100 a week. That's $400 here. Transportation, let's say you have a car note and it's $250. For gas, every week you spend $30, so that's $120 a month. And miscellaneous, which is at the bottom, is like soap, cleaning supplies, things that you don't think, deodorant, right? Let's say you plan $75 for that. Okay, and then at the bottom you see that I say joy. It's like a joy fund. We're going to talk about that in just a minute. So we're at 933, and you said food is 400, so I'm taking 400 away. Transportation is 250, taking that away. Car note is 120, taking that away, and the miscellaneous is $75. We are down to $88. Okay, $88 at the end of the month to work with. So, what do we do with the $88? This is for you to decide, but you do need to decide. And I'm going to be honest, if this was my budget, I would try to start cutting my grocery bill down. If I could, I would try to see if I can cut my gas usage down, because that's a lot. And I would also try to cut down my miscellaneous. So am I using everything in my house? Have I used it all? Am I buying, quality products? Am I buying the best deal? Is there a way for me to coupon? Because if I changed my grocery bill, if I cut that down to $75, I could potentially save $100 if I went from $100 a week to $75 a week. And if I cut my miscellaneous down, let's say to $50, that's $125 I've just freed up. If I could cut my gas down by even $5 a week, that's $20 more. So now we're at, what is that? $145 extra dollars plus 88. So now that extra money is freeing up. But seeing this budget helps me see really what's going on. So if I have $88 left at the end of the month, I really can't afford to shop. I really can't afford to eat out. I really can't afford to do much because I haven't even factored in paying off debt. I have not factored in, and I will also cut that cable off. I haven't factored in if my car has an issue, though that would come out of the emergency fund. Remember, after the emergency fund, we are saving 3 to 6 months of our total household need. So hypothetically, if I wanted a full budget of what I needed for an emergency season, I would factor in car repairs for $100 a month, just in the event that I need an oil change, tire replacement, car parts replacement, just to have that fund already growing. So this budget tells me I need to either cut back or I need to find additional income. And this is where we have to be creative. If we can get a part-time job. We can take different gifts and talents and monetize them. If you're a baker, maybe on the weekends you sell cookies, you Uber, whatever it is, to figure out how much more income you need for your house to run comfortably. A lot of people will compromise the tithing. And again, I'm not in any way telling you that you're going to go to hell or you're a terrible person if you don't pay your tithes, as I do believe that God cares about the heart of the giver and he cares about your situation and he cares about you. But I want to tell you as a believer that, that's something that is like a seed that says, you know what, I trust that you're gonna do what you said you're gonna do and you're gonna provide. Some people would compromise their savings, which ends up being the $88 plus $50 now they have available. You're worth the savings. Okay, so maybe your savings has to be $25 in this season. It will add up. $25 times 12 months. I'm not a math teacher, so I'm not going to do that on top of my head. But my point is, a budget helps you understand what's going on with every dollar. You might even say, I need to find a cheaper apartment when my lease is up, because that is a lot to pay for the amount that I'm bringing in. Okay, so hope this helps someone. I hope that you were able to kind of get an idea of what to do. A couple things I want to say. I want to make sure I hit on everything. I have a bunch of things over here. Oh, okay. So you list your income, you list your expenses. There are some things that are consistent. There are some things you don't want to compromise on, such as the 4 walls, housing, transportation, clothing, and food. You don't want anyone to put you in that position. And lastly, you need to stick with it. There have been so many seasons that I would create a budget and I would see, hypothetically using this budget, that I have $88 left. And instead of really just being like, okay, I have $88, it almost made me sad and disappointed. And so I went and I would do something like, I'm going out to eat. I'm going to go buy me something to feel better. I'm going to go hang out. And it's like, it's not going to change the fact that you still got to pay these bills. You know, it's not going to change the fact that your savings is in the hole. It's not going to change the fact that, you know, you don't have any food in your house. Whatever it is, you're not helping your situation by responding emotionally. You look at the fact that you have $88 left, and then you say, okay, God, I would like a part-time job on weekends, or I would like something where I work once a week, or how can I bring in additional income? Even if it's $100 per week extra, that's $400 that you now can add to this consistent income. That's the first thing. Secondly, I want to say this joy fund at the bottom. So Dave Ramsey's plan is really aggressive. When you get to baby step 2, which is paying off debt, he is very big on telling people you should not be eating out. You should not be shopping. Every extra dime, penny, nickel, dollar, gift, anything should be going to attacking your debt. And so I've done some research and I've listened to some people's experiences, and something that they regret is that they did not live while paying off debt. And so I'm a big advocate of baby steps to changing your behavior. And I told you all a couple videos ago, before I even found out people's what they wish they knew, I don't think that you should not have an allowance for yourself, because you're changing your behavior drastically. If you're someone who is, impulsive when it comes to spending, to have a budget and stick with it is life-changing, and it literally feels like punishment. So ease your way into it. And so sometimes it's just the behavior of, we need to spend something because that is addressing a void, or it feels like an activity. And so you have to figure out, okay, what's going to be my joy fund? I'm naming that for the sake of this video. What am I going to have that I feel like I can spend and I won't regret it? So even if you can only afford $20, you know what? Every paycheck I have $20, I'm going to go to Target and I'm going to find me the cutest $20 purchase. I'm going to go to Macy's. I'm going to take myself to this Jamaican restaurant. Whatever it is, this is your $20 that'll help you feel like you're not losing complete control over your money, even though you are in control. Okay? So that's just my suggestion. I do want us to be debt free. I do want us to pay it off, but I also want us to have healthier relationships with and around our money. I want us to see our money as something we have the privilege of budgeting and planning for and using. What an honor to be trusted with so much. And I don't want us to mishandle it. I don't want us to feel like we have no control. Lastly, I see that we're at the 23-minute mark. I want to just share something that I got this week. August will be the first month that I tell every dollar where to go. In the past, the last paycheck I got in July, what I did was I did a budget, and I made sure my checking account had the money needed for my bills. So I literally was like rent, utilities, internet, groceries, everything that was like for a bill stayed on my debit card. Okay? Because I'm trying to see what's going on with my money. And this is something you have to be patient about. I hear my neighbor's dog. This is something you have to be patient about, because when creating a budget, things like your grocery amount, your gas amount, your utilities, those things will vary, but you want to almost over plan so that when it comes up shorter, you have the difference. But anyway, I planned for all my bills to be on my debit card, which told me I have no need to use my debit card for anything. So I took out the remaining balance and I just had cash on me. And my partner was like, why do you have cash in the middle of a pandemic? Like, you shouldn't have cash, you should be using a card. But for the first couple weeks, since like, you know, the month of July, or when I got paid, whatever, it feels like weeks. It might have just been 2 weeks. I just needed to see what was extra, so that when I went into stores and I went grocery shopping, I knew what I could spend that I just had already, like this, even if it was $50, I'm like, okay, well, I just know that what's on my card is for bills, and I have $50, and so if I spend this $50, I have nothing else until I get paid again. And that was really helpful. I know that we're going through a coin shortage and people don't want to touch money because of the pandemic and all these different things, and I get that. I don't know how many bank accounts you all have, but we can still get cash out right now, and even if it's just for a little while. I got this from the dollar store, and what I plan to do with it is I plan to put my gas funds in one of the pockets, my grocery funds in one of the pockets, receipts, because sometimes we purchase things and we don't need it or we haven't used it, and so if you purchase certain things and you don't even touch it within a month's time, they say you should return it, and you still can for most places. So I'll put receipts in here. Coupons, I have not started couponing, but if I see a coupon, I'm gonna put it in here and maybe try to start doing that. But this is gonna be like my wallet 2.0, and then I'll be able to see like the money that I took out my account that I was like, I don't know what to do with this, will have a destination. And so I feel like my budget will be kind of tight and right by October, maybe sooner than that, but I'm giving myself some wiggle room to really see like how much are you bringing in, how much do you need to survive, how much do you have left over to spend after you've hit on everything that you have going on, from saving to investing to making purchases, because I do want a new computer and there's things that I do want, and I really want to take on the mindset of, if I have not saved for it, I can't buy it yet. And so when you're doing things like this and you're trying to buy shoes that's $30, but you have $88 left for the month, you start to realize, okay, I need about 6 months to save those shoes because I really can only put $5 towards that purchase. You see what I'm saying? It's like, it's but it's so nice because you know that when you buy those shoes, it didn't put you in the hole. You didn't use a credit card. You're not, you know, trying to present a lifestyle you can't afford. You saved for those shoes. You can get those shoes. And so we'll talk more about this in another video, but I would love to hear what's going on with you all. Have you reached your emergency fund? What's been hard about this behavior change? What's helpful about these videos? Is there anything you want me to cover? I mean, we have tons of things that we want to cover, and sometimes I want to do 2 videos, but I do like the 1 video a week because we're chewing on a lot of information and we have to implement it. It's no good to watch these videos if you're not implementing the behaviors. So if you have not started your emergency fund, start. Do not let someone else's completion be a discouragement to your completion, right? So if it takes you 2 or 3 months, I mean, for crying out loud, I just showed you someone who may not have time or any extra income. And so if you have $88 left, you're literally throwing whatever you can at that emergency fund. But let's get it done so that we can go to the next thing. Have you all figured out your debt amount? Have you called your debtors? I have to tell you all about that in the next video. What's going on? Talk to me. As always, thank you so much for watching this video. I cannot wait to see you all same time, same place next week, a little wealthier than you are today. As always, like, subscribe, and share. Bye. Oh, and today my nails were green.